This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
And I'm Roland Sheila.
And today it is episode 48, all about Cyber Sunday 2007.
This is at the beginning of the pay-per-view. They make the mention of Vince McMahon's creation.
Yes.
After they already had Taboo Tuesday.
Yep, pretty much.
So he created a different day of the week, which was the same day of the week that they normally have pay-per-views. And they always seem to play off the words sounding the same or starting with the same letters, essentially. Yep. So like Cyber, the C and the S sound the same. So it's Cyber Sunday and Taboo Tuesday.
Alliteration. And Vince
there you go.
Is a big alliteration fan. But yeah, we just covered Taboo Tuesday 2004 a couple weeks ago, so kind of the same concept here with Cyber Sunday. Fans get to vote on either opponents or stipulations, things like that. We'll run down all of the matches and the stipulations that could have been voted on for you today.
And they also, again, Bruce Pritchard maintains it's a shoot, that it's not, they're not fixed. But they, again, you can tell which one they kind of want based on what they put in there.
Yeah.
So they try to lead the fans the way that they
want to go.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I mean, the first match, we're going to talk about it in a minute. The first match on the card, I don't know if they thought it was going to go the way that it went, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. They were set up for all the matches.
Right. But I think, we'll get there, but I don't think that one, I thought it was going to be the no DQ match.
Yeah.
I think that's one that they probably thought it was going to be too, because, the other match is kind of a little more gimmicky. But, again, we'll get there. I think that was really the only one that I thought was off of what we were going to end up with in my head.
Yeah, when we get to the Triple H Umaga match, I was a little surprised at the voting on that one too. But we'll get into that one.
Yeah.
So we have 8 total matches to discuss. The first match is a dark match. It's a tag team match. You have Jesse and Festus getting a win over Deuce and Domino with Cherry, by the way.
Biscuits and gravy. Jesse and Festus. Luke Gallows.
Luke Gallows.
Jesse is, I don't even know.
Yeah. This Festus had that, he didn't really speak or had like the stuttering kind of
Yeah, and then when the bell rang, he went from like drooling, babbling, mental disability Festus to like ass kicker Festus.
Yes. And then Deuce and Domino, I think, were there for a cup of coffee. They didn't really do a whole lot.
I think they played off like the Grease type character there that just no one cared. No one cared there.
Isn't one of them was one of them Jimmy Snuka's son?
Maybe. You've got the computer in front of you. Look
let's look this up here real quick. Let's look.
Time.
Deuce and Domino.
See what we got here.
No, I don't think so. I think I'm totally wrong.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Oh well. See, we don't plan this out ahead of time, like we said many times before.
Well, and it's stuff like if I think of it during the show, I'll look so I know I'm not like, oh, what? But like it doesn't happen often, so a lot of it I already know.
Yeah.
Like, and again, I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe I'm a smart mark, I guess. Call me. But a lot of times, like if I like a couple weeks ago with the Shawn Michaels injury, that was a legit injury.
Yeah.
I had to look it up. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a legitimate. He had to have his MCL scoped, or meniscus rather scoped. So. I made sure I looked that up because I didn't want to be like, oh, he was legitimately injured, even though he wasn't. But yeah, a lot of the stuff, especially from this era, we kind of know what happened. And, there might be a few things we have to look at. But, again, Deuce and Domino, who cares? Same with Jesse and Festus. That was a terrible gimmick. Where Jesse was his handler, essentially.
Pretty much.
But, yeah, the only person that really came out of this is, Doc Gallows.
Yep. He's now in Impact Wrestling now with Carl Anderson.
The Good Brothers.
Good Brothers.
It's too bad the WWE screwed that up.
Yeah. Especially with the OC.
Yeah, I like what they did there. And it could have been, had they been smart and put Finn in there and made it something, that thing could have been, they could still be going to that.
I agree.
But they don't, WWE and Vince is always afraid to use somebody else's creation. They want their own creation.
Yeah.
And granted, you couldn't use Bullet Club because they didn't own the rights to it, but you still could have put all 4 of the guys together. Yeah. Called it whatever you wanted to. But they just, for whatever reason, they never went really behind it. It was usually AJ and his cronies. That's kind of how they treated it.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
So we kick off the actual show with Rey Mysterio in Finley. We had 3 stipulations to choose from, or the fans did. You had a stretcher match, a no disqualification match, and a shillelagh on a pole match.
We're fans. You can say we. We're fans.
We're fans, that's true.
We the fans.
We the fans. We the fans.
In your best Jack Swagger. We the people. Yeah. We the fans. Zeb Coulter rides a scooter off the side of the stage. But anyways. Yeah.
So a stretcher match wins with 40% of the vote. No DQ was second with 36%. And then the Shillelagh on a pole match was 24%.
I was kind of surprised it wasn't an ODQ match, honestly. Mm-hmm. I think the stretcher match is so gimmicky that nobody would have picked it, and apparently they did.
Yeah. I actually, I didn't have any expectations for this one, but for some reason, I was actually really entertained by this one.
No, it was a good match. I agree.
It was a good match. A little bit of a clash of styles between the two, but I think they pulled it off really cool. There was one time where Ray was trying, because you had to get the stretcher beyond the white line.
Which is at the beginning of the ramp.
At the ramp.
Yeah, end of the ramp, beginning of the ramp, depending on which way you're going.
Yeah. So there was a spot where Ray was trying to do it to Finley to get him past the white line, and then he got caught with a TV cable.
The TV cord, yeah.
So I don't know if that was planned.
But it was cool.
Or if it was an accident.
Yeah. Either way, it was a cool spot.
It was a cool spot.
Yeah, it literally someone yanked the stretcher out from under Finley.
Yeah.
Because they got tangled in the cord. It was I agree. That was a pretty neat spot. Whether it was planned or not, it was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I thought this whole match was cool. Finley, I think, is very underrated for his in-ring work. I don't think he's a really good wrestler, and I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. I think he's known today as a trainer. He does a lot with the women's wrestling. Yeah. Is he still there with WWE?
He might have been one of the guys that was in the Max Aesthetics right after WrestleMania. Mike Rotundo was in that. Some other guys, but yeah, he if there was a match in the women's evolution or revolution, or whatever you want to call it, a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, Finley had something to do with it.
Absolutely.
So, and he, for whatever reason, again, this is the same thing as WWE. Vince wanting to make what his vision for somebody was. He wanted him to be a comedic type character.
Yeah.
And Finley's a badass.
Yeah.
So it didn't fit. I mean, it made more sense when he had Hornswoggle and they had he was kind of like Hornswoggle's dad, or when they had the Vince angle and Vince was supposedly Hornswoggle's dad.
Yep.
And all, like that, that was good. But like when they just let him be Finley, they had some really, like in this match, they let him be Finley. He went out there and they had for Ray and him, they had a pretty physical match. And like you said, there were some cool spots, especially where the TV cable got tangled around the wheel, and it literally like someone pulled the string on the stretcher.
Yeah.
Just stopped it dead. And I totally agree that I didn't have high expectations for this match, especially as a starter.
Yeah.
But it was actually lived up to the hype, and it was even better, I think.
And
so. Honestly, I don't think there was a bad match on this card. I know we're kind of getting ahead of it a little bit, but I don't think there was really one that I was like, ugh. Like, there was nothing that was really that bad.
No, I agree. Especially, and we'll get into it, but I thought the last 3 matches on the card were really strong, and a good way to end it.
But even the ones before that weren't terrible. There was nothing here like, ugh.
No. Next up is a singles match for the ECW Championship. CM Punk's your ECW champion, and you have 3 choices for an opponent to vote on. You have The Miz, John Morrison, and Big Daddy V, who's also Viscera. Mabel.
If you need, if you're an older fan, you need a little bit more point of reference. King Mabel. Men on a Mission with Mo.
Men on the Mission, yep.
And Oscar.
So The Miz won with 39% of the vote, followed by John Morrison at 33%, and then Big Daddy V was last with 28%. So The Miz will face CM Punk here for the ECW Championship. It's The Miz's first title opportunity in the WWE. Again, I thought it was another solid match. It only went just under 9 minutes. I thought these guys probably could have had a little bit, if they had a little bit more time, they could have done a really spectacular match.
And I mean, I was a little surprised it wasn't Morrison. They got the vote, but I mean, it was still close. And think of how far and I said this, my wife was watching some of the show at this point when I was rewatching it, and I said to her, look at how far that guy has come to now, where he's still relevant now. He's married Maurice.
Yes.
And at that point, he looked like a dub. Like, he came walking out, he had his hair cut and a friggin' mohawk, faux hawk thing with like a fedora, and he looked like a clown compared to what he is now, the movie star. So I mean, you think of where he started to where he is now, it's a hell of a transformation. Yeah. And it's a testament to his. A lot of people criticize Miz for having that safe style of wrestling. He's been there for 12, 13, 14 years, and he hasn't done anything major to injury-wise.
No.
So, I mean, some people say that, he's like, well, that was Daniel Bryan's biggest thing, that he was, soft in the ring because he wrestled a certain way. well, how many years did Daniel Bryan have to miss because of the way he wrestled?
Mm-hmm.
And not that anything against Daniel Bryan, because I love Daniel Bryan too, but this just shows you from here to 2020 how relevant the Miz has been.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a mark for CM Punk anyways. I'm a CM Punk fan, so
I do too. One of the best promos in the business.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll get back to wrestling, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't see it happening.
If it hasn't happened by now, it won't happen.
Yeah.
I don't think. And I think for a little while there was talk about AEW, but from what I heard, they wouldn't give him enough money. He had a thought of what he was worth, and they weren't going to go anywhere near that. So, which is probably some of the same reason for him in his mind to not go back. If I price myself out so high, then I can be like, well, they don't want me. So, no, I don't think you really want to go back that bad. But this was definitely a pretty good match too. And like I said, think of where the Miz has come from 2020 right now, from 2007 then. It's a heck of a transformation and a lesson in longevity.
Yeah. So next up we have the voting to determine the opponent for Randy Orton later on in the show. Your choices are Shawn Michaels, Jeff Hardy, and Mr. Kennedy. I think the obvious choice was Shawn Michaels here to win.
I think the only other person that could have been close to me would have been Jeff Hardy.
Would have been Jeff Hardy.
And that's how the vote
went. Jeff Hardy or Shawn Michaels got 59% of the vote. Jeff Hardy 31%. Mr. Kennedy with 10%. So they played it up. The two losers here would face each other. So that is your next match. You have Jeff Hardy and Mr. Kennedy in a singles match. This match went about 9 minutes. I was a big fan of the Mr. Kennedy character, especially with the whole microphone gimmick and everything.
Yeah, from the ceiling. Yeah,
from the ceiling. I really liked Mr. Kennedy. I thought this match was really good. I was really surprised by the finish here. I thought they were going to put Jeff over, but they didn't, and they put Mr. Kennedy over in kind of a weird finish. Jeff Hardy kind of goes for like a basement dropkick in the turnbuckle and just hits his head on the canvas, and it kind of knocks himself out and gets the 1, 2, 3. So I thought that was a little. I was really happy with the finish because this wasn't something I was expecting.
Yeah, and I think that's part of making shows good is that you don't have the expected outcome to happen. Hell in a Cell this past Sunday, the stuff they're doing with Roman Reigns, the way that went. I don't know if you saw it, but for Jimmy Uso to come out and beg off Roman Reigns from hitting Jay. And then Roman goes into that crying, I don't even know who I am. And then he ends up choking him out. It's like, it's stuff like that you just don't expect. You're like, And that's kind of how the finish of this match went. It was one of those things where like, ooh, wow, that was, and that, as a fan, especially as a fan that knows probably too much, you want to be surprised.
Yeah. And
like you said, it was a refreshing surprise to not end it, with a certain way of a move, like a swanton or something. When matches end that way, it's predictable. Like in the Shawn Michaels match, he's going to do the flying forearm. He's going to nip up. He's going to go for the sweet. Like Hogan, he's going to Hulk up. He's going to big boot, leg
Ric
drop.
Flair,
there's just certain, and when stuff doesn't go that way in the matches, you're like, ooh, that was cool. Yeah. And they're smart enough to do stuff like that at a certain time. And we'll get to the Shawn Michaels thing, but the way that ended too was a unique way to. I mean, it was. I didn't like the finish per se, but it was a unique way to have the finish happen. And when they do that, it makes matches, in my opinion, so much better.
I agree
because you're not expecting it.
You're not expecting it. Next up is a singles match for the United States Championship. MVP is your champion, and he's going to face a mystery opponent. The fans get to vote on.
And this was the backstory of he was supposed to be teaming with Matt Hardy.
Yes.
And Matt Hardy got the ever-loving crap kicked out of him. He looked brutal. I don't know how much of that was makeup, but I think a lot of it wasn't. I think he took a pretty good thumping from some of that, and he wasn't cleared to compete.
So your choices here were Kane, the Great Khali, and Mark Henry.
I don't know why Great Khali didn't win.
No, I don't know either. He came in second, though.
Which is sad.
He wasn't last.
Yeah, it's sad that people voted Great Khali over anybody. It's sad.
So Kane wins overwhelmingly here with 67% of the vote. Then you have Jeff Hardy. I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong thing. So Kane wins with 67% of the vote. Then you have the Great Khali at 24%, and then Mark Henry in last. A little surprising with only 9% of the vote.
I mean, this was 07, so Henry hadn't quite got that
true.
Hall of Pain. He was getting there.
Yeah.
He didn't, the retirement thing with John Cena. You know, when Mark Henry came out.
Faked his retirement.
Right, that, you know, he didn't have that heat yet.
No.
He wasn't there yet, but he was starting to get there.
So Kane will win by countout. MVP caught himself intentionally counted out. He had a chance to get back in to beat the count, but he didn't. And they were playing it up they were playing it up how he kind of cowered out. But it was kind of weird because Kane never went after him, like you see in like 98% of the matches when somebody's on the outside of the ring. So it was kind of, I don't know. I wasn't too thrilled. I thought the match itself was pretty good up until the finish.
Right, well, and then, you know, normally that type of finish happens when you're like a chicken shit heel as a champion.
Yeah.
They want to get counted out to keep the title. So, like, you'll see that sometimes where the guy has to go get him, put him back in the ring. But yeah, usually 9 times out of 10, somebody will go out after them and get him, you know. But obviously, this was probably the let me up match of the whole show. That was just like, yeah. Because, I mean, no one cared enough for this match to be long or to have any, like you said, there wasn't a whole lot of chemistry there either.
No.
I don't think, so that didn't help. But, I mean, when you're going to have the Great Khali or Mark Henry or Kane face MVP, there's probably not a whole lot of chemistry between any of those guys.
No.
And it's kind of funny to look back at MVP here, and he's relevant again.
Yeah, with the Hurt Business. And,
so, it, you know.
Kane's the mayor now.
Yeah, mayor of Knox County. If you haven't read his book, I recommend it. Mayor Kane, very good. I mean, I didn't read it, but I used the audiobook. I let somebody read it to me. Which actually, he narrates it, so that's kind of cool. But, yeah, no, like I said, it was one of those, it wasn't terrible either, but it easily was probably the worst match on the card.
I would agree. Yeah, definitely the let me up match.
Yeah.
But we finished the pay-per-view with a bang with these next 3 matches. So earlier we had the vote for Shawn Michaels winning to face Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. He's going to win by disqualification in just under 16 minutes. I thought it was a really solid match. I mean, Shawn Michaels really, really has a bad match. You guys had a lot of great chemistry in the ring together. Really solid match. The finish, Shawn kind of goes for the sweet chin music, and Randy Orton just punches him right in the
nether regions.
In the nether regions.
Forearm shiver to the balls.
Yes, pretty much.
Again, a creative finish that you don't see coming, though.
No.
I mean, I don't mind it in this because, again, chicken shit heel.
Yep.
He keeps the title. He was going for sweet chin music. It would have been even more if he had ducked it and countered an RKO and been like, oh, wow, saw that coming.
Yeah.
So, again, there's certain times I don't mind this type of surprise. Yeah. I mean, the finish is what it is, but at least it wasn't predictable. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, he tried to punt him, and Michaels did get the sweet chin music on him. Orton tried to do the punt as Michaels was still flailing around after he got hit in the junk, and they played.
I wonder if he would have no-sold it like he did this past time.
Maybe, you never know. Yeah, he's still he's probably the only person I've ever seen get kicked in the head like that and be up in the corner trying to get up already afterwards. But yeah, that was a cool moment. And the commentators kind of Jim Ross and the King sold it as, well, Shawn said he's going to hit him with sweet chin music, and he did. Yeah, after the match.
After the match.
So, again, obviously they didn't want to have a title change here, but at least it wasn't a predictable finish. There was it wasn't a disqualification. It wasn't a count out. It was a disqualification that way where it was creative enough where it wasn't like, oh, you got counted out or, oh, you used a chair. It was something that was not predictable, that was different, so I don't mind it as much. No. If it had been him just getting a chair and hitting him with a chair, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, you've seen that a million times.
Right. So, it was a creative way to get the DQ, and it keeps the heat on Randy for being the chicken shit heel. Mm-hmm. So
next up, we have Triple H and Umaga. The fans got to vote on the stipulation for this match. Your choices were...
This is a really good match, too.
It was. It was excellent.
Yeah.
You had a street fight, a steel cage match, or a first blood match. A street fight won with 57% of the vote, followed by steel cage at 26 and first blood match at 17.
I was surprised here, too.
I was surprised here. I would have voted for a first blood match.
I thought, honestly, in my head, that it sounded like in the arena the fans liked the steel cage match.
Yeah.
In my head, from what I heard over the speaker. So I thought they were going to go with steel cage match. So we both were wrong.
Yeah. I would have personally voted for first blood match. I would have to be the crew on that stage that has to set up the cage and it's never used.
Right, yeah, they're just hanging above
above the ring.
You would have thought that steel cage would have been in more of the matches.
Yeah.
To try to use it at least once.
I know.
But yeah.
But this was an awesome match. I mean, Umaga was really focusing kind of on the midsection Triple H throughout the match. There was a cool table spot. They had 3 announced tables. They had the SmackDown Raw and ECW table where he laid Triple H on one table and Umaga's at the other end, and he jumps over
he runs the table, kind of like Jeff Hardy runs the barricade.
Yeah,
except he runs the 2 tables and then splashes them. Yeah,
that
was a cool spot.
It was a really cool spot. Triple H takes out the sledgehammer, uses the pedigree to get the win.
I know what you're thinking. Triple H and a sledgehammer? No way.
I know.
No way.
It just happens to be under the ring all the time.
He knew right where it was.
I know.
Like he didn't even have he didn't have to get out and look. Nope, it's not here. He rolled out and that's right here. Here it is. I got it. It was creative how he didn't get to use it right away.
Yeah.
I mean that was kind of nice. But anytime you see him bring a sledgehammer out, you know he's going to use it eventually.
Yep.
That's the payoff. But like you said, this match to me, I forgot how good Umaga was.
Yeah.
When they let him be the Samoan Bulldozer. When he was, I miss Armando Alejandro Estrada here too. I miss him breaking the cigar.
Yeah.
And at this point, he was pretty much Vince's heavy. Triple H had been, giving Vince a bunch of crap about the Hornswoggle thing.
Yep.
Some of the stuff he said wouldn't go over very well.
No.
Did he? You wanted to know if he had relations with Hornswoggle's mom on the yellow brick road. And stuff just some of the stuff he said. It's hilarious, but today it probably wouldn't. But I mean, Triple H still. I mean, he got in trouble a while back on Twitter saying something about something that he could have got away with back then that he probably shouldn't have said.
Yeah.
About somebody being pregnant and not knowing it. Was it Paige?
Yeah.
Was it Paige
Becky Lynch, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was somebody that he said he made a comment and it's one of those. As soon as he lets it out, he's like, ugh. He probably knew right away. He's like, oh, this isn't 2007. I can't say that anymore. But some of the stuff he said, Vince got tired of it and wanted Umaga to settle it for him, and Umaga came up short, but it was a great match.
Yeah, it was excellent.
And ironically enough, this match, was about the same time as the main event match. So
yeah,
the last 3 matches were definitely the matches on the card. They got the most time, and probably rightfully so.
Absolutely, totally agree. So our main event match is for the World Heavyweight Championship between Batista and The Undertaker. Fans got to vote on the special guest referee here. Steve Austin is overwhelmingly going to win when he's in the vote.
I know you're surprised.
Yeah. He wins in a landslide with 79% of the vote.
This was cool, too, because the whole night JBL was trying to play up, like, I'm going to get, I need to be back in the main event.
Yeah.
And, he's playing up to and he did such, and they actually had a lot more physicality before this match than even
between
remembered.
Mick Foley and JBL.
And even Austin.
Austin
too. Got in there, and for a guy that, at this point, had retired... And really he took a clothesline from JBL. I mean, it was like a mini match at the beginning. It was pretty neat.
It was pretty neat, but Mick Foley got 11%, JBL got 10%.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was excited about how they made the whole night, in between every match, JBL was like, I know. And then the next match,
he's wearing his referee shirt throughout the whole night.
Yeah, and then Austin never even wore one.
Yeah, I know.
But he did a great. I will say, I'm not going to spoil the match yet, but he did a good job officiating. He was where he needed to be. His counts were consistent.
Yeah,
he did well, and that was one thing that stuck out to me. Is a lot of times when you have a special referee, sometimes they stink to join up. No, Austin did well. What
I noticed too is when you have a special guest referee, it's almost always one of the wrestlers is going to complain and get into a physical altercation with the referee. That didn't happen here.
No.
Either between Batista and the Undertaker, none of that didn't happen, which was cool. It was nice. It was refreshing to see a clean.
And he played it right down the middle too.
He played it right down the middle, and it was refreshing to see that there was no physical altercation.
Yeah,
and predictability.
And it didn't make the outcome of the match a certain direction. It didn't steer it in a certain direction because Austin stunned Batista. Yeah. Or whatever,
No.
So
there wasn't even any stunners after the match, which you usually see.
Well, he hit 2 before the match.
He hit 2 before the match.
Poor Mick Foley didn't even know it was coming.
I know.
He just spun around, bang, stunner.
But this is Batista's red hot here.
Mm-hmm.
The Undertaker's going to be your main event when he's on the card. I thought this was an awesome match, great way to close the show.
And the Undertaker could still go here. This was a great match from him. Some of the stuff he did, it makes you remember when you watch how good the Undertaker was. Even at this point, he was still an older guy, and he was still. I mean, some of the stuff he did in the two Shawn Michaels matches in WrestleMania, and the match with Triple H after that, some of the stuff he did there, you can't do anymore. He was doing that with ease here.
Yeah.
In 07. He was still really good.
Couple false finishes here. Batista hit a Batista bomb for a near fall, but then he gets another one right afterwards to get the 1, 2, 3. So I thought it was a really solid match, and Batista retains the title here.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, if you can beat the Undertaker clean, you have a rocket strapped to your back.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, name the people that have beaten the Undertaker clean over the course of his career.
Yeah.
Not very many.
Not many.
And Batista was one. I mean, and it was a convincing win too. Like you said, it took a couple of Batista bombs, but he laid them out.
Yep.
Plain and simple. There was really no like sit up spot in this match. There was one closer to the middle of the match, but there was really none at the end where usually Undertaker makes that kick out and then they both lay there and then he sits up.
Sits up. Yeah.
They had that spot, but it was earlier in the match. So like by the time they got to the Batista bombs, you knew it was a good chance it was over, and it was.
It was. So that is our rundown of...
Oh, we skipped the Diva of the...
Oh, yeah, the Diva of the Year.
The segment that JR wanted to vomit all over.
Yeah.
The Diva of the Year, they were all dressed up in costumes, and they all had their own little vignette scenes.
And I don't know if Mickie James' costume, if you could get away with that today.
She was an Indian.
Yeah.
Not like the Red Dot Indian, but like a Native American Indian.
Yeah.
Either one's probably not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was...
I don't know if you could do that.
Well, and Tori Wilson was a Washington Redskin football player, which, I mean, they were in
Can't
DC.
say that now.
Nope, she'd be a Washington football team player.
So Mickie James...
Jillian Hall was Britney Spears, dropping babies.
Victoria was a sumo wrestler.
Yeah. Was that Kenny Dykstra with her? Is that who that was? Dressed up like... Mr. Fuji.
I don't... It might have been.
I think that might have been who it was. Yeah. But anyways.
So Mickie James wins with 21% of the vote.
Mrs. Undertaker came in dead last.
Yep. Michelle McCool. I would have probably voted for Kelly Kelly because I had a big crush on Kelly Kelly when she was back at this time.
I mean, it's hard not to remember back then some of the people they had that were just there for looks. And a lot of them actually ended up wrestling and were okay at wrestling. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, they weren't great, but they at least did okay.
Melina was pretty good.
Maria, for what she was, became a decent wrestler. Kelly Kelly wasn't terrible. Tori Wilson did a lot more in the ring towards the end. That a lot of people, Layla
Mickie
was
James
really
is still going today.
Layla was a really good wrestler.
Layla
Michelle
was
McCool.
Good. Yep.
Michelle McCool might be the best of the bunch.
Don't really remember Brooke.
No, I mean, well, Victoria too. Victoria was a really good wrestler too. So I mean, there's
Victoria was probably the best one out of the group.
Yeah.
Besides Mickie James. Mickie James had a really
Michelle
good
McCool
career.
had a good run too.
Yeah.
So, doesn't hurt that she's married to Mark Calloway either.
I know.
But the man behind the Taker. But it was JR hated this spot. He despised the thing. He's like, can we just end this?
I'm sure the King liked it though.
Oh yeah, puppies. But that was the only thing we missed from the show. That happened right before the main event. So
yeah. So that is our rundown of Cyber Sunday 2007. I thought it was a really strong show, like you said. The only weak spot was probably that MVP Kane match.
I think some of that was filler. I mean, just based on they wanted to get him on the show, and Matt Hardy, the angle with Matt Hardy when they were friends, and then they ended up fighting each other for the United States Championship, and that whole storyline back then was really cool between MVP and Matt Hardy. Like, I can do stuff better than you, and that was a pretty neat storyline. Probably the most relevant one that Matt Hardy had at that time, because he never really got over until he had the broken character.
Broken gimmick, yeah.
I mean, it's over as he is now, or was then. I mean, I don't really know how over he is. He's not really doing much in AEW now. I mean, nobody knows what he is. He seems to come out with like a different character every week. So. But I think that, like you said, the last three matches. If you have like an hour that you want to kill, watch the last three matches. I'm gonna give this show a pretty strong rating. I'll probably give it 7.5 to an 8. Yeah, I was gonna say 7-ish. Definitely a strong 7. I would say. Like I said, nothing really let me down.
No,
I mean even the MVP thing wasn't terrible, but it didn't necessarily need to be there either.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a pretty good show. Next week we have another great show to discuss. It is Survivor Series 1997. Now, if you're a wrestling fan, you know what that show is.
Yeah, if you don't know what it is, then you're not a wrestling fan.
Yeah,
because this show is infamous.
Yes.
For one match and for one outcome.
It is the Montreal Screwjob.
The infamous Montreal Screwjob that Bret Hart didn't want to give the belt up. Supposedly he was leaving anyways, and McMahon, with the help of Triple H and Shawn Michaels, made the call to screw him over, and they didn't want him to leave with the belt. He was supposedly his contract ended that night. He was supposedly going to come on Raw the next day and say, "I can't wrestle here anymore. Here's your belt."
Yeah.
And Vince didn't. The more that the closer they got, the more they didn't like the idea of it. I mean, they just had Medusa trash the title, leave with the women's championship and trash it on Nitro.
Yeah.
So they just you're in the heat of the battle for the Monday Night Wars, and you look back on it, it may not have been the best way to handle it, but it makes business sense.
Yeah, they couldn't really take any chances.
No.
And they had to do what they had to do, and we'll give you our takes on Montreal Screwjob next week.
To be fair, I don't remember too much about this card besides that.
I don't really either.
Triple H wrestled earlier in the night. I know he was there wrestling. I want to say it might have been like Gold Dust or something.
I think so.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm pretty sure the show itself was pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's literally the last, the main event was what everybody remembers from this.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Absolutely. So we'll get into that next week right here. Until then, everybody be safe, take care. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. Until then, I'm Tim Church.
And I'm Roland Bulis.
And this is Wrestling with Wrestling Past and Present.